And everybody, we welcome you to Let's Talk About It on Thursday night. Certainly, we are grateful and happy to be here tonight. And thank you for those of you who are tuning in by Facebook Live or Zoom tonight. Thank you for joining us, and we're happy to have our guests with us tonight. Um, we are looking forward to a awesome conversation tonight on what you need to know about domestic violence slash sex trafficking. And we have Pastor Tereasa Brown with us tonight, all the way from Kansas. And she is our capable guest tonight that's going to bless us and give us some great information. The scripture teaches us that our people perish because of some knowledge. And so I'm going to turn this over to Pastor Brown. I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself, whatever information you want to give us, and then I'll come back and we'll get this show on the road.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Bishop Jones, for having me on. I am Pastor Brown out of Kansas, and tonight we're going to talk about domestic violence. I have an extensive background in domestic violence, sexual assault, child exploitation, sex trafficking, labor trafficking, and I'm also certified to work with offenders and batterers in a batterers intervention program. So I'm ready to get this discussion started. Take notes. If you have any questions, please feel free to, I guess Bishop gonna have you type the questions in and I will answer any questions that you have. This is a very candid conversation. I am gonna be upfront with you. I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything, and hopefully this discussion will save somebody's life.
Excellent. Before we get into it, Pastor Brown, you are an author, right?
Yes, I am. I have written and published 5 books. They're all on Amazon.
Okay, so if we go to Amazon, how would we go to look for it?
You have to type in my name, Tereasa.
Okay.
It's 2 A's in Tereasa. That's Tereasa. Last name Brown. They range from spiritual books, and I do have one book entitled "Don't Love Me to Death: When Teenage Dating Becomes Deadly."
Wow.
And although it's written for teens, I've had comments from adult women that come and ask me, where was I when they were going through the same situations that I describe in a book.
Super. All right. So tonight, as we look at this, and I just want to let everybody know, this is a very hot topic. It's a very timely topic. And we probably won't get but to deal with one topic tonight, and that's domestic violence, because sex trafficking is a whole topic within itself. And so Pastor Brown has consented to come back and do a part 2 with us next week. And so we're looking forward to that because I believe there's so much information to gather. I don't want to rush her in order for us to try to get into sex trafficking. So what we will do, we will come back next week and we'll deal with sex trafficking. But tonight, it's domestic violence. So Pastor Brown, tell me, if this is my first time hearing about domestic violence, what does it look like from someone who's been in the field and done it for so long and seen it firsthand, have dealt with victims before? Tell us exactly what it looks like.
So when you talk about domestic abuse, you have physical, you have emotional, you have financial, and you have psychological. And so on a physical level, that's the hitting, the kicking, the scratching, the spitting on, the all out beating. That emotional level is tearing down your self-esteem. It also deals with the verbal abuse, calling you out your name, cursing you out. You have the financial abuse. Some victims, they have to go to work, and when they come home, they have to give that check to that abuser. They don't get to see that check. You have the psychological abuse when they're trying to isolate you from your family. They moving you, you met them, you are very family oriented. Then all of a sudden y'all got to move 30, 40, 50 miles away from your closest friend, your closest relative. They don't want you talking on a phone to anyone that they don't approve of. And every time you talk to your family members, they have to be around to listen to the conversation.
Wow. So, you know, you dealt with 3 or 4 different parts. And I've always looked at it from the mental part and the physical part. I never thought about the financial part of it. I do know a little bit about the isolation part, but that new piece you put in, the financial part of it, that's an eye opener right there. And so prayerfully tonight, people will get a good idea. If they're in it, probably they already know. And if they're not, hopefully by the time we get finished tonight, you will know what it actually looks like. So let's talk about it as far as, let's say it's a new couple. They just got married. What are some of the signs that you should look for, whether you are male or female, because it works both ways, right?
Yes, it does. Yeah, people do not realize women can be abusers too, and they are abusers. But some of the signs you can look for, all of a sudden, you're not allowed to have privacy. All of a sudden, you are being questioned about everything. When you go to work, we only live 15 minutes from the job, so you can leave home at 7:15 and still make it there at 7:30. Your schedule cannot vary. You can't have, I ran out of gas and I got to get some gas before I go home. Every little thing is nitpicked, and people have to understand that even while we're talking to each other right now, and the number of people that's on the line, I can tell you from statistical data, 1 out of every 4 women have had some type of abuse in their relationship. So if I got 4 women on this call right now, at least one of them have been in an abusive relationship. 1 out of 6 men. If I have 6 men on this call, one of them have been in some type of abusive relationship. So we're talking right now, and we have abusers and offenders that we're speaking to right now.
So since COVID-19 has started, we're in the middle of this pandemic, and I try to keep up with it as much as possible because these topics are dear to my heart. And I've seen where the numbers have actually gone through the roof since we've been quarantined in home, because now you're in home all day. And so the numbers have actually gone through the roof. So if you are, let me ask this question. If you are in a situation where you know it's domestic violence, what would you say to that individual and what they should do?
Okay, this is what I'm going to tell you. When you're trying to leave an abusive relationship, that is the most dangerous time. Because think about this, Bishop. When you're dating, that abuser on the first date is not going to punch you in your face or knock you upside your head. Why? Because they want another date. What they do is they get your mind first. And once they got your mind, they have you. And so if you're in this abusive relationship and you don't know, do I get out? Do I stay? First and foremost, you start gathering your important documents. Let somebody know what's going on. A lot of victims suffer in silence. And while we are doing this Zoom call is going to be an hour long. Every 20 seconds, somebody dies from domestic violence. So look at how people are going to die just from being abused while we're on the Zoom call right now. And so start getting important documents, birth certificates, marriage certificates, social security numbers, putting those in a safe place. And because when you leave, you're not packing up a whole house. You're leaving for your safety. A lot of people, sad to say, they stay in abusive relationships because of animals.
Really?
Yes, a lot of people, I can't leave my cat, I can't leave my dog. Start making arrangements now. If you're thinking about leaving, you start making those arrangements now, because when it's time to go, you have to go. And if you have children, now is not the time to keep hiding the fact of what's going on. You need to sit down and talk to those kids, and you get a code word. And when those kids hear that code word, you let them kids know, if you ever hear mom or dad say this code word, you run, don't you look back. You go to the neighbor house, y'all call the police, because this is how serious it is.
Whew. Man, you hitting some nails right now. So my question has always been, what is it that makes them stay? I know you said animals. Is that the only thing that causes them to want to stay or get out of it, and then sometimes you come right back to it? What is that revolving doors all about?
Well, what makes a person stay? It could be a number of things. It could be financial reasons. It can be status quo reasons. You know, he gives me this lifestyle, but when he gets mad, he always buys me a gift. And my gifts are expensive and they're beautiful. It could be the children. I don't want my kids to grow up without a father. I didn't have a father. I know how that felt. So I don't want the kids to grow up without a father. It's called the cycle of violence. And in the cycle of violence, what you have that tension phase where we're just arguing and we just, going back and forth, name calling. But then you have that explosive phase. That's when the hitting and everything, the physical start. But then you have the honeymoon phase. And in the honeymoon phase, it's all good. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. It'll never happen again. And you might be wooed with presents, chocolates, and everything is good for a day or a week or a couple of months. But then here we go again. We right back arguing. Then we right back fighting. Then we right back in love. And so what happens is you're going through this and they still love the abuser. They just don't like the behavior. And so they're thinking, if I could just change the behavior. But I have a question for everybody on the panel. Who on Zoom, who are y'all mind readers? If you're a mind reader, please let me know. Because if an abuser is going to tell you, I'm going to kill you, you better take that abuser at their word, that I'm going to kill you. If an abuser says, if I can't have you, can't no one have you, you're not a mind reader, you better take them at their word. If an abuser says, if you go to work and if I catch you talking to somebody when I come on that job, you're going to be in trouble, you better take them at face value.
So what should one do to empower themselves? So I know you talked about getting all your important documents. So if you see this going on, and how can the family step in and help? Because sometimes that's a touch and go situation. Sometimes you try to come in and help, and then you end up getting the backlash from it. So how should they empower themselves? What should the family do to help? Because sometimes they say stay out of our business, but then,
Right. So number one, first and foremost, if someone is just in a relationship and they just getting into this, have your boundaries set before you get in this relationship. If you're already in this relationship and you're already married and this is happening, I'm going to tell you this. If a person can hit you once, they can say sorry, but best believe they'll hit you again. Because once an abuser gets to the point where I'm hitting you and you don't do anything, you just showed that abuser what they can get away with. Immediately, let your family know this is what's going on. Now, this is where it gets sticky at. Because you have some families that are like, oh no, you're not going to be touching my child. You're not going to be hitting my sister. You're not going to be hitting my brother. And they want to come to the rescue. And then when they get there, the victim is like, stop, don't do nothing to him, leave him alone. And you're like, wait a minute, you came crying to me. And so what happens is they keep crying wolf and the family keeps coming and the family gets tired before the victim gets tired. If the victim comes to you and you're the family member, listen to them and ask them, what would you like for me to do? Because we can put all these wheels in motion and say, oh no, we moving you out of here. We getting you out of here. And they run right back, because as long as they're away, they forget about the abuse and their heart grows fonder for that abuser. And they only remember the good times, and they only remember when they're happy. And so they run right back. The victim has to be sick and tired. And statistically speaking, it takes a victim 7 to 10 times to leave and come back before she's either fed up or the abuser kills her. That's the facts. 7 to 10 times to leave and come back until she's either fed up or that abuser kills her. And so ask yourself, when they keep going back and forth and you've been helping, what number are they on? Are they on number 7? Are they on number 8? How many times is this?
So I want to give our audience an opportunity to ask any questions before we go any further. Does anybody that's on tonight have any questions for Pastor Brown? She's talked about quite a bit so far, and it's a little bit numbing, but it's the truth because you've actually seen it in your field, right?
Oh yeah, I've seen women that have been literally set on fire by their husbands. I've seen women that have been beat sitting in front of me with raccoon eyes and still contemplating, should I leave or should I stay? I've seen women be stripped to nothing, wondering, but I still love them. Should I try to fix it? Should I leave? And should I stay? And so what we have to understand, this just doesn't happen to regular people. It happens in the church too. From the pulpit to the back door, it happens. And ladies and men, if you go and get a restraining order, you have to enforce the restraining order. The restraining order holds no weight if you never enforce it. What do I mean by that? I go to the magistrate office. I let them know I've been abused. They're going to give you a temporary restraining order. The temporary restraining order is normally for up to 2 weeks. And then you have to go back before the judge to get a permanent restraining order, which will last for a year. Within those 2 weeks, or whenever you get the permanent restraining order, if the offender comes and harasses you, because that restraining order is going to outline what that offender can and cannot do. They can't be within so many feet of you. They can't come to the home. They can't call you, text you, Facebook you. They can't try to reach you through a third party. All that will be outlined in the restraining order. If they try to do anything that the restraining order says you cannot do, you need to call the police and say, hey, this is Miss Brown. I have a restraining order, and the offender, he is here, she is here, and you need to do that. Also, if you live like in a tri-state area, say you are in Virginia and you get a restraining order and you over there shopping over there in Maryland, and the offender follows you to the store over there, start harassing you, fighting, beating you, hitting you. You call the police. This person has just now crossed state line to come and abuse me. They don't care about the restraining order, and you have to enforce it. And so when you get that restraining order, you keep it on you at all times. You make copies of it. You give a copy to your family. You give a copy to your job. You show them a picture. Hey, if this person comes, this person is not supposed to be on the premises while I'm here.
So when that restraining order takes place, are they allowed to contact you?
No, it's outlined in the restraining order. Anything that judge outlines in the restraining order, if they violate it, you need to call the cops. That's what the restraining order is for. If you never call the cops, the judge is going to think when you go back for the permanent restraining order that this person has adhered to the temporary restraining order. So
if you have a temporary restraining order and you break one of those do not do in that restraining order, is it no longer in effect anymore, or how does that work?
So if the offender breaks the restraining order and you call the police, that offender is going to jail until y'all go back before the judge. And this is the thing, people don't understand. When you're fighting with your abuser and y'all fighting, if the police show up, somebody is going to jail. Because the reason why the laws are written the way they are now is because domestic violence incidents is the most dangerous call that a policeman can show up to because of how brutal it is, and they don't know what they're walking into. And so now what the states have done is that when the police show up because of domestic violence, somebody is going to jail, if not both of you guys. Whoever hit first, that's the one that's going to be charged with domestic abuse. Women, if you hit first, that's who's going to be charged with the domestic abuse. And say, for instance, you was just mad and you called the police, and there was an incident, but you was just mad and you wanted it to stop, and the police arrest the other person, and you say, I want to drop the charges. You can no longer drop the charges, because now it's not you against that person, it's the state versus that person. Again, because domestic violence is one of the scariest and most dangerous calls a policeman can come to when they get a call for a domestic abuse dispute.
So, so if you in a, it gets physical and the cops is called, then it's a he say, she say, oh, well, he hit first or she hit first. How does that work? So if you,
they're gonna talk to both parties. And if it's some witnesses, they're gonna talk to them. Well, she was cussing me out and I was tired of her, and so I just pushed her. Sir, you pushed her, you going to jail. Well, he was in my face and I know he was out, and so I slapped him. You going to jail. They're going to talk to both parties.
And so how do you empower the kids? You said you gave some code, you said use some code words.
You talk to the kids. I know a lot, especially in the African-American culture, what goes on in the house stays in the house, but your life is at stake. And sometimes your children's lives are at stake. You know, we think that our kids don't know what's going on in the home. We think because we close the door and we argue behind closed doors, they not listening. Kids know what's going on in the home. You sit them down. You let them know. I know you don't think it's proper for them to see the abuses, but you let them know this is what happened to me. You know, you let them see the bruises, and you let them know, look here. We're going to have to make a run for it at some point in time. And when it's time to go, I don't need you clinging. I don't need you crying. This is what needs to happen. Because when we don't talk to our children about what's going on, why are you leaving daddy? Why are you leaving mommy? I'm not going. And so now they're hindering your escape. And now your life is at stake. And depending on how far gone that abuser is, to make an example, they may kill the kid in front of you to show you, did not tell you, you're not going anywhere.
And so some people, I guess okay, I got a question. There's a question in the chat box. As a family member of someone being abused, how do we help the children in that situation?
Let them know that you are a safe place. Let them know at any time, day or night, they can call. If you call me, I'm coming. And keep your word. If they call you at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, don't be upset. Let them know, where you at? I'm on my way. Mom and dad fighting, call the police. I'm on my way. We coming. So you let them know that you are a safe place. A lot of kids don't like to talk to other adults because they don't think the other adults are safe places. And so you have to let them know that I am a safe place.
At what point does the court system get tired of a situation if they constantly see it over and over? Or when they just say, like, you know, okay, we've seen this case over and over.
Frequent flyers, that's what they call them, the frequent flyers. Sometimes it really all depends on the judge. And then it all depends on the severity. What I was going to say earlier, you know, you can get in a fight with your significant other and they get like a bail of $250, $500. But if an animal is involved while y'all fighting and the dog get kicked or the cat scratched, do you know that bail goes up to thousands of dollars because of animal is involved? Think about that. You just hit me, it's a couple of $100. An animal is involved, it's a couple of $1,000 for you to get out on bail. And so it all really depends on the cops, and it depends on the judge if they've come out one too many times. And one thing, if those who are on here, if you have children, sometimes the state will step in. If you continue to allow your child to see you get abused, they will charge you with child abuse, although the child has not been physically hit. But because you have subjected that child to the emotional and psychological and the verbal abuse of seeing you being abused, you can be charged with child abuse.
Wow.
And so it's a lot of ramifications. My oldest daughter, I wrote the book, Don't Love Me to Death When Teenage Dating Becomes Deadly. And she had a child as a teen, but she started dating a guy. And the guy was not my grandson's father, and he was abusive. And I would tell her, you better get out of this relationship. I would literally go and snatch her from places. You get out of this relationship. Because of my job, I went to work overseas, and she decided she was not going to follow me overseas. I took my grandson with me, because if he'll hit you, he'll hit a child that's not his. And so I took my child, and literally my daughter will call another country because they would be fighting. So she would call another country for me to call the police in the US. And time again, I would call my mom. Mom, will you go get her, or will you send for her? My mom would send for her numerous of times. Do you know how much time, how much money that we wasted sending for her? And every time she wouldn't get on the bus, every time she wouldn't get on the plane, I had to reimburse my mother. And she would stay and stay. And then when I came back to the States, we were able to get her away from there. She was safe for 2 years. After 2 years, she went back. Had 2 more children by this person. And so domestic violence is real. And so dealing with it, I didn't allow my oldest grandson to go back. I adopted him, but I can't adopt every child that you have. At some point, she has to say, I'm tired. Enough is enough. And so what I have to do is I still talk to her abuser. Why? Because she's chosen to live with him, and I have to be mindful, because I can be very harsh. So I have to be mindful not to be harsh. Why? Because she's not on the phone with me 24/7, and she still has to live there, and my 2 grandchildren still have to live there.
So you really can't say what you really want to say, but for the sake of your grandchildren and your daughter, you have to walk a fine line.
That's it. Because you choose to be in this environment. Now, if you put me in another situation to where I have to step in and take drastic measures and take your children, because I don't want the state to take your children, but don't put me in a situation that's going to have to happen.
Okay, we have a question in the chat box that says, how do you approach someone whose job it is to help other people who are victims of domestic violence if you expect them of being a victim of it?
They say victims of domestic violence and sexual assault makes the best advocates. I literally had people work for me that I knew were victims. When I would call their homes, I would literally have to explain to their spouses who I was, what my position, who I was, and why was I calling before they would give the phone. You just, you talk to them and say, look, I'm not really trying to, I wouldn't even say I'm not trying to get in your business. Look here, I see the signs. This is what we do. If you need to talk, if you need a safe place, just like we advocate for everybody else, best believe that we can advocate for you too.
Any more questions? Okay. Why do the victims keep taking the abuse? Can you talk about that mental piece?
They in love. They think if I can just flip the switch from the abuse, if I could just stop this abuser from abusing, everything is going to be fine. They have this thing, if I can just fix this person. You cannot fix an abuser. I am a firm believer, no one waits till they're 30 years old to say, I'm gonna bust you upside your head. When they were a child, they either seen this type of behavior and they saw the results that it yielded, or they were made to participate in this type of abuse. I have worked with abusers, and that's one of the questions I say, I yell at you, I get in your face, why is it that you don't abuse me, the batterer intervention specialist, but you go home and you abuse the person you say you love? Because they no longer look at them as a person. They look at them as a piece of property. We having sex now, you're my property. No one looks at my property. No one touches my property. And so that mental piece is they think that if I could just get this person to stop this behavior right here, then we will be okay. But when you're dealing with people, you're dealing with human behavior, and you cannot change anyone's behavior. They have to want to change. And if they don't have an incentive to change, they're not going to change.
So 9 times out of 10, if they are doing it to one person, they've already done it to someone else.
Yes, by time an abuser is put in jail, whether it's for physical abuse or sexual abuse, they've already had multiple victims.
So what can we do as family members to empower the victim?
To educate them and let them know you always have a place to come. Because if you pull them out the situation, you just make it go right back. But a lot of people can't go back to family members, because family members told them, if you get with that joker, if you get with that person, we washing our hands of you. And that's what they do. But you keep letting that family member know, like, hey, you are loved. Especially the ones, listen to me carefully, those of you who are married and love the Lord and Holy Ghost filled and fire baptized. The Bible says submit. Show me in the word of God where it says that you submit to being beat. You submit to being raped in that relationship. You show me in the word of God. God never called you to be a punching bag, men or women. God never called you to be a punching bag. God doesn't beat you up, throw you in the street, give you black eyes, break your bones. And he did not create a partner to beat you up, break your bones, put you in ICU, burn you up. God did not create you for that. That is not love. You are living in an abusive relationship. You are living in hell on earth. If you stay in a relationship and someone is telling you, you're going to submit to me, this is my wifely duty. No, it is not. And you need help. Confide in somebody that you trust, because God did not cause you to be a punching bag.
Question in the chat box says, do you recommend not getting in a relationship with someone who was a victim of domestic unless they have received counseling?
I would, if you get involved with somebody that was a victim of domestic violence, make sure they are healed, make sure they have dealt with their baggage. Because what happens normally is this. If a person is in an abusive relationship, they get out of that abusive relationship and they find themselves in another abusive relationship. Familiarity breeds contempt. Until they deal with, why do I keep choosing an abusive person? Until they start to deal with what is on the inside of me that attracts this type of person, then you're going to be in for a roller coaster ride. Because there's sometimes, and I've heard this, and you might say, that sounds crazy, Pastor Brown. I've heard this, they don't love me if they don't beat me. They don't love me if they don't hit me. That is a lie from the pit of hell. But some people think that because that's what has been ingrained in them. So if you are saying, I'm getting in this relationship, they were abused at one point, make sure they are healed, because then you're going to have to deal with that. And then you have to make sure that that offender was dealt with, because what if you're getting in a relationship with a victim and they still dealing with a stalker, offender, ex that said, didn't I say, if I can't have you, can't nobody have you? And then all of a sudden, all these things start happening to you that ain't never happened to you until you got with this person.
So I heard you say something a few minutes ago, and a lot of times it's not talked about, and that's that sexual side of it as far as being raped.
Uh-huh.
And most people don't think that you can be in a marriage and rape is not rape.
There is a such thing called marital rape. The law says no means no. So even if you're married and your spouse wants to have sex with you and you say no and they force themselves upon you, and by the way, women do rape too, and they force themselves upon you, that is rape within the marital relationship.
Okay, I'm taking notes because I'm learning here. Any other questions tonight as we move forward into this powerful conversation? Okay, so no questions. I had wrote some stuff down, so let me so okay, there's a question. I'll say mine.
Okay.
Is there a connection between being abused as a child and getting into abusive relationships?
It can be a connection. Some people gravitate to that because that's what they know. And if dysfunction is normal to you, then you gravitate towards dysfunction. And if you don't know what a healthy relationship looks like, if a healthy relationship has never been displayed to you, if you've always seen your mama get beat and men in and out your mom's bed, if you've always seen your daddy being verbally abused by different women, then that's what you gravitate to. And what we have to understand too is if we have children in our home and they see us being abused, if we have little girls, what we're teaching our little girls is that this is how men are supposed to treat you. And if we have little boys, we're teaching them this is how you treat a woman when you want her to get in line. That when you want a woman to shut up, you slap her upside her head. When you want a woman to have sex with you, you beat her, make her cook you dinner, and then you demand she come in here and she perform sexual acts on you.
Whew. So I have a question here. So in a domestic abusive relationship, it could be one or the other. They like to turn the tables and have everybody else saying, well, see, they crazy. How do you combat with that? Especially when they going out into the community and they saying every kind of thing about you so they can get the upper hand.
Right. And 9 times out of 10, they say everything about you, and then you still see the victim with that abuser a couple of minutes later or the next day or so and so. Dysfunction within our communities and within our families is real. And most abusers are charismatic. Most abusers are your unnamed conspirators. They are loved by the community. They're our pastors. They're our brothers, our fathers. I mean, the people love them. They're the life of the party. And so when you tell that I've been abused by my husband, no way he can do that. As nice as he is, and as much stuff as he buy you. So most of our abusers, they're well loved, they're well liked, and they're very charismatic.
Any other questions? I don't want to just hold the floor all to myself. I want to give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you need to, so you can become educated on this. Now, since maybe we're waiting for some questions. So if we see it, as pastors, what does the law say we do?
Well, as a pastor, you have that pastoral, that privilege when people come and talk to you. So the law doesn't say you do anything. However, as a human being, you see it happening, speak about it. Don't let the victim think that they have to go through this in silence. Say, look here, you can let me know if I'm wrong or not, but if you are being abused, let us help you. If you are being abused, I won't come and take you out of your home, but if you want help, if you are being abused, let us help you. I'm not telling you got to come before the church. I'm not telling you got to let everybody know in the church, but as a trusted official in the church, we can help you. The whole church don't have to know what we're doing, but we can help get you to some safety. And a lot of people don't want to come forward because I've never lived in a shelter. My kids have never lived in a shelter. Sometimes we may have funds where we can get them to safety. But in most cases, what I personally would like to do, if the victim is up for it, do you have family members out of town that's willing to take you and your children and let us get you out of town? Because as long as you're in town, you're going to run into that person. You're going to call them on the phone. Come get me. I'm over here, this or that. Look here. And I can't say this enough. You can always get stuff back, but you cannot get your life back. Once you are dead at the hands of an abuser, you are dead. And if you have children, guess what? If the courts don't intervene, those kids might go to the very abuser you were trying to protect them from. And so do not fool around and just see the red flags and let them go. Most of the times, we don't want to look at the red flags. Why? Because we get in these relationships, we're having sex before we're married, and now that we're having sex, we have these soul ties, and now we're trying to, you see the red flag, but you push it away. All of a sudden, we were happy, we were lovey-dovey, now we start having sex, and we're in the middle of Walmart, and you go slam fool off on me. That's a red flag. That's not how you hold up that finger in church. That means it's time to exit left and leave, because you have just told me that you can snap on me in public without a care to my emotions or my feelings. When they start talking about you, you better not get big. That's a red flag. They're letting you know that if you gain weight, there are repercussions for you gaining weight. That look, push and little shove, that is not a play tap. They're seeing how far they can go and what they can get away with. There's no such thing as a play fight. You're an adult. Why are you pushing and touching on me in a manner that's aggressive like that, and then trying to show it up as it's just a joke? I tell people this all the time. You can only keep crazy caged up for so long. Crazy is going to come out in that relationship. And so if you see the red flag, don't sweep it under the rug. Address it. Address it. Because if they'll go off on you in the grocery store, it's just a matter of time before they go off on you at the church house.
Okay, I think we got 2 questions in the box. I think maybe you've answered it, but I'm going to read it. What should you do if you find out a friend or a family member is the abuser?
Confront them. Because let me tell you something. If an abuser can whoop up on a woman, then when a man confront him, you'll see what that abuser is made of. Confront them. And I'm not saying you got to go ready to fight, but if you know that one of your family members is the abuser, then the rest of the family members, you're obligated. You go and you say, look here, what do you get off thinking you can whoop up on somebody else's child? What do you get off thinking you can whoop up on this woman? I thought you loved her. So you think her having a broken arm is cute? You think that's going to put her in her place?
Next question. What are other signs of emotional abuse?
Okay, so of course you have your verbal abuse when you're talking about the emotional abuse. You got the yelling, the shaming. Isolation is so big. All of a sudden this person's social media presence is no longer out there. You know, they used to maybe tweet or Facebook or Instagram or whatever. Now they're with this person and you can't see them. You know, there were points in times when I was overseas, the only how I knew my daughter was still alive is I can look at her social media footprint. That's how I would know that she was still amongst the land of the living, looking at her social media footprint. And so isolation is huge. You know, you used to could be able to talk to this person, but now they hardly got time for you. Girl, I just been busy. I just ain't had no time. And the other time they ain't been busy. But all of a sudden now they're busy. They're not coming to family functions no more. And then when they do come to family functions, they all on edgy and they trying to make everybody make nice. So their spouse or their significant other don't feel out of place. And they don't want you saying anything out the way. Why? Because they got to go home and deal with that.
So we have to, friends and family, when we see it, we have to walk that fine line too, for fear of or for concern that if we say too much when they go back home, that could be repercussion.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Your mama talk too much. And I'm one of the women, I'm aggressive. I talk. I'm like, why are you with this person? And then I had to catch myself like, you work in this type of field and you know what the repercussions can be. So I have to be mindful that, I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll pray for you guys. And in my mind, I'm just like, why? Where did you go wrong? Because sometimes you ask yourself that, why? What did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? But if she's going to choose to stay in this relationship, then I have to do everything that I can to help her stay alive.
So, because of what you do in this field, how do you, because you see so much, how do you prepare yourself daily?
To be honest, prayer. I have a relationship with the Lord. And if I didn't have a relationship with God, I would be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And I'm just being honest with you because of the things that you see. You can literally, when you have to propose situations to a person to make them say, if I stay, I'm going to die. And you have to let them hear them say that. If I stay, I'm going to die. Then you say, okay, now you're starting to hear it. I'm not telling you this. You're hearing it for yourself because you're telling yourself this. And so a lot of prayer, a lot of going before the Lord. When you walk into situations and they put the kids in the middle, and because they're mad at the other parent, you literally see babies have been thrown, not set down, but thrown to try to get an arousal out of the other person.
Question in the box says, girls are usually taught when they are little that if a boy hits them, that means he likes them. Do you feel this is a mistake that carries over as they become adults, staying in abusive relationship?
Yes. And we need to teach our children the truth. If a boy hits you, that's not love. He doesn't like you. And we always teach our sons, never hit a girl. Well, I have sons and daughters, and I tell my daughters, don't ever hit a man. I don't care how angry he makes you, you walk away. Don't hit a man, because if you hit a man, and let's be honest, in this day and age, you better be ready to receive a man's lick, because all boys ain't taught, don't hit a girl. Some boys are taught, if anybody hits you, you try to knock their head off. So I tell my girls, don't hit a man if you're not ready to receive a man's lick.
Any more questions in the chat box? This is powerful. This is I've never had it put this way. So you've been hitting the nail on the head. So talk to us about how the abuser can just.
You went out on me. I didn't hear the question, Bishop.
All right, I'm coming back. Talk to us a little bit about how these abusers just all of a sudden just start an argument just out of nowhere.
Well, abusers know how to they know how to control the environment. So for instance, if I'm the abuser and I know you at home, but I already made plans that I got to go out and be with this person, let me go ahead and start this argument, because then I can control the environment. I can do what I'm gonna do at home, and then I'm gonna be like, I'm out of here. I'm leaving. I ain't gotta put up with this tonight. So, cause I already got plans. I gotta go do what I have to do. Or I'm going to continue to start the argument so I can strike the fear of God in you. And so now I can have you walking on eggshells. Because as the abuser, I have to be able to control that environment at all times. You got to understand, I'm the king or the queen of this castle. I'm going to control this environment at all times. And so your nerves are on eggshell. So you're on the schedule. I got to get home. I got to make dinner. I got to make sure the house is clean. I got to make sure the kids are not out of place. I got to make sure they're not crying or anything tonight, because I don't want anything to mess this up. I don't want anything. I don't want the abuser to have any reason to say anything when they come home.
You talked about code words for the children. What about code words to family members?
The same appears. If I'm calling you and we on the phone and you're like, hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm doing good. That so is a big blue sky out there. That should be, oh, she's in trouble. I got to get over there. And even if you have a good enough friend and you say, look, I'm thinking about leaving. Can I leave some stuff at your house? Can I leave some clothes at your house? Can if I get a little bit of cash, can I leave it under your house? Let me tell you one thing abusers do when they feel or see. What happens is they what they want to do is they try to take your electronics, your phone, and things like that. If you're in an abusive relationship right now, start practicing keeping your phone in your pocket. Keep your car keys on you. Don't just throw things around. Start keeping things on you. If you know you always one of them people that don't never like to fill up to the next one, and start keeping the gas in your car. You never know when you have to get away. You never know when you have to escape. And when you leave, because a lot of you don't realize that abuser has put a tracking device in your phone. They have put a tracking device on your car. So when you do leave, throw that phone away. Go get a track phone. Don't care if they paying the bill. You go get a track phone. You go take your car to a garage and you ask them, check my car to make sure ain't no tracking GPS devices on my car. If you got OnStar or anything like that, you call them and say, take this load jack off my car. I don't need my car to be found, because you know how a lot of abusers find them with these new cars. I'm gonna call OnStar. Can you tell me my car? My wife is somewhere and she lost. Can you tell me the GPS coordinates where my car's at? Can you let me know where my car's at? The car's registered to you. You paying the bill? Sure, sir. Here, your car is over here on this street. Okay. Thank you. And so you have to really start thinking like the abuser. What does the abuser always go for when we get in an argument? Do they keep liking to trash up my phone? Do they keep liking to, every time my daughter would get into it, he would take her form of communication from her. whether it was an iPad, a computer, a phone, anything that she could communicate with the outside world, he would take it, he would trash it, he would break it into pieces. And so start keeping your stuff on you. When I would go visit her, I would take her shoes and I would put her ID and put them in the soles of her shoes. So when you go, you go. You got your ID on you. You ain't got to be like, I don't have my purse. No, it's in your shoes. I already put it in your shoes. Go.
Two questions in the chat box says, why does the victim keep excusing the offender's action?
Love, fear, shame. Because some of them are saying, how did I get myself into this? And let me tell you guys this. Abuse, it doesn't matter your race, your color, your socioeconomic status, because poor women are getting abused, rich women are getting abused. People that live in Beverly Hills and people that live on Hoboken Street. It does not matter. Domestic abuse is equal opportunity. And so it's a number of things, but love and thinking they can change that abuser.
Next question. How often do the abusers lash out at their victim's family and friends, those they think knows about the abuse?
It all depends on how many times they get to be around them. It all depends on if they isolate from them or if not. It just depends on the dynamics of that family. Because some abusers, they'll act like total angels around the family. Or some abusers just won't care.
We've covered a lot and you hit a lot. More than I anticipated. What you do for a living, you do it well because you are very informed. And this has been some great information. And it's my prayer that all of us will take it. And maybe some of us that are on tonight, we may not need it right now, but if we don't need it, there's a friend that needs it.
That's right.
There's a family member that needs it. And so this information you have given us tonight is just like, it's like gold. And so it's 7:59. So as we wrap this up tonight, and you have consented to come back next week, and we're going to deal with the sex trafficking part next week. And let me tell all of those who are on tonight, there is sex trafficking and then there is human trafficking. So we'll see how far we get next week, because we might take this to a third week if we have to, if Pastor Brown is available. I just want to get this information out. I talked to a friend of mine last week, high school friend of mine, and me and him was talking about how we have seen changes during COVID-19. And there's a lot of things that have come out. And one of the things we were talking about now that husband and wife is in the house with each other all day. He was saying to me, he said, yes, he said, I'm a traveler. He said, I'm on a plane at least 182 times a year. And he said, now because of COVID, we're in the house together. And he says, now we have to start dating all over again because we done had arguments that we normally wouldn't have. So some stuff has been exposed. And so he said, it's good because now they got the opportunity to work on it. So if you was to close here tonight, for all of our listeners that's listening to you right now, what would you say to that person that might be saying, I just can't, I don't know what to do, nothing is going to help right now. I'm just done.
For that person that's at the end of their road, I would ask you, what does your life mean to you? What value do you think your life have? Being with somebody just because they buy you stuff, just because they pay your bills, and you are afraid to know what's on the outside of having to pay your own bills, and you may not be financially set. If this is you, Your life is much more than being beat, having broken bones. You can heal from all the physical, but all the mental, all the psychological that's happening to you that you don't understand. If the abuse don't kill you, the stress will kill you. And get out while you have a chance. Get out while God is sending you a lifeline, while God is sending you help. Get out and don't let nobody try to bring up Christianity and use that you are a Christian and that's why you're staying in this. God gives us common sense and we have to use everything. Love does not hurt. Love does not break bones. Love does not give you black eyes. Love does not set your body on fire. Love does not curse you out. It's not going to change. It hasn't changed in all this time. It's not going to change. And get out while you still can.
Pastor Brown, thank you so much. You have been a blessing to all of those who have been on tonight, whether it's Facebook Live or whether it is Zoom. And it's my prayer that what you have heard tonight, you will take it to heart, whether it is you that's in the situation or whether it is a friend or whether it is a family member. Love that person enough to tell them the truth. And whether they come out of it or not, at least you can say you did your part. And we must have to, we got to continue to pray for them and continue to love them through it until they come out of it. Some come out of it, some don't. But thank you for giving us hardcore facts.
Yes. And can I say this one last thing?
You sure can.
Don't call the person that's in the situation stupid or dumb. Let me tell you how smart the victim is. They've learned how to survive to live another day. So they're not dumb. They've learned how to survive, but they just don't know how to survive outside of that, outside of that dysfunction. But they've learned how to survive in that dysfunction.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Thank everybody for coming on tonight. Now, next week, you don't want to miss because Pastor Brown is going to be back and she's going to be shooting just as hard as she shot this week. And one of the things she said to me when we talked, she said, Bishop, I don't sugarcoat anything. And I said, well, me either. So bring it. And that's what you did tonight. So we are indebted to you. Thank you so much for sharing what you do for a living, as well as what you do, because I'm sure you see it in the ministry, just like all of us who are pastors, we see it in the ministry, outside the ministry. So we're going to be praying for you. But New Life, here's what I need you to do. I need you to give Pastor Brown some shout outs, some thank yous for taking her time to come on tonight and be a blessing to us and equip us, because this whole platform is about during this pandemic that the Lord gave me a year ago. Let's talk about it, this platform. And so while we're in some of the things, we can't get out like we used to. So we need to empower ourselves. And so this is another opportunity that we have on this Thursday night. I do want to give a big shout out to my boy, Michael Sturdivant, for making this connection for me and Pastor Brown to meet. And so this will not be the last time that we're going to be rocking. We're coming back next week at the same time, and we're going to do this again, but we're going to take it a little further, and we're going to hit that sex trafficking part, and I'm excited about that. And so thank you again, Pastor Brown. You nailed it. And Sturdivant, if you are watching on Facebook Live, power to you, brother. Thanks a lot for making this introduction to me and Pastor Brown. This is going to last for a lifetime. And Pastor Brown, let me say this to you. I think we got a couple of things in common. Well, three things, at least I think so far, is preaching the gospel, empowering the people. And I was told that you are one of the baddest bakers in Kansas.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I love it too. That's one of my passions too. So at some point, all of the people that I've had on, it's been my prayer that God will bring us together after COVID is over, and we'll get an opportunity to fellowship. And so now that we got this connection, we're going to keep it. And so until next week, we're looking forward to all of you who are listening tonight. If there's a subject that you would like for us to engage in, you can email us. T, if you can put the information in the chat box for those who are on Facebook Live, who are watching us tonight. If there's a particular subject that you want to talk about, to get educated on, please email us and let us know, and we'll do the best we can to bring it to you. But this has been one of the hot topics that people have been talking to me about, and of course this is dear to my heart. And so finally the Lord sent a very capable young lady tonight that's anointed, that was able to bless us tonight. So again, thank you for sharing with us tonight, and we will see you next week the same time. And so what I would ask all of you to do is please invite someone, invite a friend next week. They can come through either Facebook Live, or they can come on Zoom. We'll have the information up for you to invite a friend, because people need to know what's going on out here, and you need to make sure that you can help family or friends that's going through these type of situations and circumstances and dysfunctions. And so if we say we love that person, we need to do everything to try to empower them. And so tonight, Pastor Brown, you blessed us. You have put us another notch higher. So thank you again. And so I want to say good night to everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you next week in Jesus' name. God bless you.
God bless you. See you
Thank
next
you.
week, Bishop.
All right.